Part 92. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 914. Elder Tapros smiled and twirled his white beard. Gee, that's what young people are like, they can't hold their breath and jump when teased. Isn't he just a student? He won't rob. The god of nature cult also has strict rules. There are already disciples of the teacher, so he won't rob. Even if the child's teacher is only an 8th level priest, and his current level is already lower than the student himself, this is not the reason for him to steal the student. Of course, appropriate guidance is still available. He is a good young man of the Order of the God of Nature. As the senior legend of the Order, he has unshirkable responsibility. Elder Tapros sat down comfortably, and the surrounding bushes immediately bent and nodded to create a seat for him. Another bush bent its branches obligingly and offered him a bunch of cranberries. Do you want it? The elder smiled and pushed the branch towards the Lord of Thunder. Beside the legendary mage, Cyrilla lowered her head slightly and made a hidden mouth gesture. Who wants it? To her surprise, the Lord of Thunder actually thanked him and took off a small branch. The branches continued to turn, and the two archmages each thanked them. After folding a section, Elder Tapros looked at Cyrilla with a smile. How are you, little silver dragon? Do you want some? Do you know each other? Cyrilla took the branch in a daze. Elder Tapros smiled and pointed, and another bunch of berries popped up on the branches of the bush. There are only so many legends in total, who doesn't know them? After speaking, he hooked his finger, the branch trembled slightly, and a berry fell on his palm. The elder casually threw the berries into his mouth and pointed to the hazy green mist in the distance. The Order of the God of Nature has been almost 50 years old, and there are no new legends. The elder closest to the legend is already over 100 years old. We welcome new members with potential. Very good, I think Gretel may have reached the legendary school, and now, he is already the third one. Cyrilla thought silently. She moved closer to the old man and picked off a sprig of raspberries to eat. After eating a few pills, he stretched his neck and looked in Gretel's direction. Is he going well? How long will it take? I have never seen so much green mist. Well. Elder Tapros looked over with her. It should be fine, right? The flow of the power of nature is very smooth, with no waves and no violence. Don't worry, little Greet is nature's beloved child, and he will be fine. Greet had no idea of a naturally favored child. He just absorbed the power to his heart's content, the power given by the world's will and the power given by nature. The bones, muscles, breathing, and circulation of the light person composed of the core of meditation are completely connected. Gretel even suspected that he could feel the elasticity of the skin and the temperature of the breath if he pressed the light man. The meditation world opens greedily, trying desperately to fill it in, but no matter how much it absorbs, it seems like it can never be filled. In other words, after level 9 or 10, the meditation world will gradually interact with the real world and embark on the path of materialization, and when materialization reaches the end, it will be the demi-plane of the legendary mage. After inhaling for an unknown amount of time, Greet's consciousness finally slowly emerged from the chaos. He thought vaguely. How much energy must be absorbed to fill this meditation world? I remember that the formula from energy to matter should be E equals mc. According to this calculation, if I want to transform real matter in the meditation world, I have to absorb the surrounding energy. Let's do it. Thinking of this, the whole person trembled and completely came out of the meditative state. After popping up, I slapped my legs and regretted. What was I thinking? Just suck it if you can, and be infused with the will of the world. This kind of opportunity only comes every time you advance. It's so rare. Normally, I can only rely on meditation to carry such a pitiful little bit. But there is no use regretting now. Gretel stood on tiptoes and looked around. It's good, it's completely dark now, but I don't know if it's that night or if it's already been a day. Well, I'm not hungry either. At times like this, the stomach is always not hungry, so it can't be used as a basis for judgment. He could only concentrate on sensing the situation around him. How much time has passed? How much energy did I absorb, and did I suck the surroundings dry? Nature responded to him immediately. Oak, beech, holly, oak, all kinds of trees responded to him in their own way, telling him, it's quite a long time. Yes, the sun rises and sets again for such a long time. We are good. We are doing very well. The trees, shrubs, and weeds are all in very good condition, and the animals around are also very energetic. Greet laughed relaxedly. He lowered his head, opened and closed his fingers, opened them again, and closed them again, and began to check his status. The five senses are normal, the fingers are flexible, and there are no signs of inhaling too much natural breath, bark growing on the back of the hand, and turning into a tree. Mind should be normal. There is no problem with emotions and reason. It doesn't look like he is blending into the wilderness or turning into a beast. To verify, maybe we should get a scale. Or, a high-level math question? Greet subconsciously snapped his fingers, and the light and shadow in front of him intertwined, outlining a math problem he had done before. Very good. I recognize all the formulas and know how to calculate. My thinking is functioning smoothly. The feeling of being integrated into the world just now should have no sequelae and did not affect his spirit and brain power. What is he doing? Elder Tapras, who had been waiting for 2 days, walked out of the tent and looked at the Lord of Thunder in surprise. The Lord of Thunder also walked out of the magic cabin, looking out into the distance with his hands behind his hands. When he heard the elder's question, he glanced at him silently and turned his head. It's just mathematics. What magician doesn't know a little bit about mathematics? Oh! Elder Tapras groaned in pain. Mathematics, why would he, a priest who understands and respects nature, plunge into mathematics? He would rather observe the beauty of a flower blooming, feel the calmness of fallen leaves turning into mud, and watch the thrilling action of animals hunting and escaping, but never, tossing around with these maths. Little Gretel's skills are still solid. Otherwise, it would be impossible to learn spell configurations so quickly. The Lord of Thunder looked at the green mist that had subsided, and his tone was inexplicably happy. Moreover, he has developed very powerful self-created magic every time he advances. He has been very steady step by step. The future is worth looking forward to. You just don't have any self-created magic, right? Elder Tapras groaned. I have advanced so many times, and the priest level has also been raised from level 1 to level 9. At least, I want to create my own magic. There's nothing we can do about it? The Lord of Thunder replied leisurely. He went out late at night, and everything from his hair to his clothes was not messy. He casually summoned a round table and dining chairs and sat down calmly. With another flick, hot coffee, a 3-layer white porcelain dessert tower, and a dazzling array of 7 or 8 kinds of pastries appeared on the table. The legendary mage even poured an extra cup of coffee, letting the milk foam spread out into the shape of branches and leaves on the surface of the coffee, and pushed it in front of the elder. What he usually spends his energy studying, what he uses most easily, and what he relies on when he advances must be that. After all, he advances so quickly, it's impossible for him to be proficient in all spells. Then it doesn't necessarily mean it's magic this time. Maybe, he has reached level 9 and feels that divine magic is also important. Do you really believe this? Would you like to bet something? Elder Tapras rummaged around on his body, took out a dark old vine bird, and patted it gently on the coffee table. The little bird flapped its wings twice, stared at the Lord of Thunder with its jewel-encrusted eyes, and screamed chirp. Huh, bet. My disciple, how could I not know? The Lord of Thunder glanced at the bird on the table. With his eyesight and perception, he could only see a few functions such as increase, decrease, protection, natural breath, and communication. However, there must be nothing wrong with the natural legend. This little bird swallowed Gretel in its belly to protect it, and it could withstand the storm and fly hundreds of miles away. Shouldn't it be a problem? The other party was generous, so he couldn't be stingy. The Lord of Thunder grabbed it casually, and a palm-sized cat cub fell out of his palm. The kitten was silver-white all over, with only 2 eyes shining brightly, as if countless lightnings were flowing inside. He rolled on the table, sat up, raised his paws to wash his face, and called out Mimi twice. Lightning Spirit, Elder Tapros rubbed it casually, and the kitten's hair fell in response to his hand, becoming extremely supple. I'm so sorry. Haha, why am I reluctant? Anyway, I can't lose the bet. The 2 legends were bickering every word. The 2 great masters sat respectfully under the teacher, each looking at his nose, mouth, and mouth, pretending to hear nothing. Sarala turned a deaf ear, stretched her neck, and tried to look at the distant mountains. Why hasn't Gretel finished it yet? The last time I advanced, it seemed to take 3 days. How many days will it take this time? 5 days. 6 days. What will be the spell engraved with his mental power this time? Teleportation. Ice wall technique. It can't be a big fireball, right? Gretel didn't choose any of them. After making sure he was fine, he once again worked hard to meditate and connect with the will of the world. Very good, this time it was connected smoothly, just like the posture is wrong. I got up and went back to sleep, and I can still continue to have the dream. Although not very common, it is not that rare either. Otherwise, during the magician's advancement period, one by one, they may starve into mummies. Not everyone has gifts from the will of the world. This time the gift of the world's will is particularly generous, but what should I choose for the spell to be engraved this time? Calcium extraction? It feels like the application field is too narrow, and it's a pity to waste it here. Teleportation. This is something he has studied carefully, but there is nothing original about it. The will of the world will probably look down upon it and will not give any additional bonuses. Secret Eye? In this aspect, he has some original ideas, such as reducing the size and bringing in his own light source. However, he still feels that it is a pity to use it here. Got it? Just choose this one. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to @Sufn1980 for the reward of 1,500 starting coins. Thanks to @WhiteLightDust for the reward of 100 starting coins. The elder forgot to say this when he appeared last time. Tapros eye drops, also known as Tafloprostaglandin eye drops, are used to treat glaucoma. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 915. Greed patiently channeled the force. Drop by drop, wisp by wisp. Like spring rain, like mist flowing into the world of meditation. He first eliminated most magic. So far, the magic he has mastered, both in terms of power and control ability, is sufficient to meet his requirements, without the need for additional enhancements. Then, magic. This thought only flashed through Gretel's mind. What does he need magic for? Besides, there is no configuration of divine magic that can be engraved in the world of meditation. If you exclude magic and divine arts, you will have to find another way. Greed was thinking nervously, what he needed most, the direction he needed to strengthen himself most. Obviously, it is thinking and memory. When doing CT before, When doing magic measurements related to potassium ions and sodium ions, his memory and thinking could not match his needs, so he could only leave it to the core of the mage tower to do it for him. Even if he already has 2 mage towers, he always has time to go out, travel, perform tasks, or simply relax. Spend a lot of money to buy a mage tower core? Where do you go and where do you carry it? This idea, let alone whether it is too wasteful, Greet always feels like he is running around like a snail, carrying the house on his back. Maybe I should build a calculator. Greet thought silently. A supercomputer, built directly from part of my meditation core. But great, what is the structure of a supercomputer? Gretel seemed to remember that its base was a silicon wafer endless diodes. He could barely fiddle with this part, but what about going up? Carving circuits on a chip? Even if you don't have to deal with various things such as photolithography machines, ultraviolet light sources, photoresists, etc., the circuit layout of a single chip is a secret that is not passed down by each company. Moreover, after engraving, you still need to write a program. What machine language, assembly language, C++, Java, Python? Sorry, Gretel doesn't understand anything in his past life or this life. Another technical line is to design golem/tower spirits, give them wisdom, and let them grow on their own. Gretel still doesn't understand it at all. Is there any way, and any form of computing system that I can use, and so on? There is another way. Also, a biological computer that simulates brain neurons. And I am good at this direction. The light people I constructed with my mental power are originally based on human beings. Greet sorted out his thoughts and quietly began to guide the transformation and growth of his spiritual core. Little by little, energy is injected into the human brain, left and right hemispheres, gray matter, white matter, basal ganglia. Greet had already shaped the macroscopic anatomical structure of the brain during his last construction, but this time, he needed to guide a more detailed structure. With a thickness of 2 to 3 millimeters and an area of 2,200 square centimeters, 14 billion cells are distributed. And these cells generate endless synapses, connecting and surrounding each other, forming the center of thinking and feeling. It is obviously impossible to squeeze such a large amount of work by hand. Gretel could only meditate, trying to outline the patterns and convey their general structure. What 6 layers are the lateral cerebral cortex divided into, what types of synapses are there, and how are they connected? Then, work hard to instill all your feelings, knowledge, and memories into it. Please accept these. And grow up. According to the theory of previous lives, when humans perceive, learn, think, and act, a certain part of neurons will grow accordingly. It was impossible for him to give the meditation core 20 years, so he could only replace it with these things. This work is particularly complex and requires special caution. Although the will of the world provides enough energy, it will not do other work for itself. Little by little, Greet sank into the quiet ocean of meditation. From the outside, dense streams of light surrounded him, weaving into a colorful cocoon of wandering light that had not moved for a long time. He's been quiet for a long time again. I don't know what kind of magic it is this time. Maybe it's divine magic? Communicate with nature and promote the growth of all things. Such divine magic requires a lot of power to match. The 2 legends looked at each other, each put their heads aside, got up, and entered their tents or cabins. The 2 archmages followed immediately, but Cyrilla reluctantly stayed at the table, stretching out a finger to touch the silver-white kitten. You are so cute. Is your fur made of lightning? Why is it so soft? Can you shake hands? Roll around? Let me scratch my chin, okay, good, and touch behind my ears. They waited another day and night, and another day and night. Finally, the light surrounding Gretel gradually faded and disappeared, and Gretel jumped up from the stone. The first thing he did was to throw out a dark gold skeleton. Uniakim, he shouted. Twirl around. So, the spell he strengthened this time is from the necromancy system? Elder Tapros asked in disbelief. The Lord of Thunder turned his face away again. After twisting halfway, he quickly returned to the straight position and looked into the distance in surprise. Is it detection magic? This kid threw the skeleton just to test detection magic? This level 0 trick for beginners as a magician. Surprised, Onijin spun around and around again. In the first circle, it stood upright on the floating saucer, and was driven by the floating saucer to rotate in one circle. In the second circle, it points one arm to the sky, turns the other arm to the side, stretches its right leg back to form a right angle with its left leg, and rotates flexibly in one circle with its toes as the axis. In the third round, stretch your arms outwards, point your left toe to the ground, and wave your right leg in circles in the air like a whip, driving the whole body to rotate. So it's really about necromancy. Elder Tapros murmured. The Lord of Thunder complained impatiently. Didn't you see detect magic? This kid was torturing his CT. It seems to be working well. He succeeded. It did work. Greed put away the dark gold skeleton, set up the flying technique, and flew over with a smile. As soon as he landed and said hello to the two legends, the Lord of Thunder asked calmly. Did the advancement succeed? Yes. Priest. Priest, and Mage Gretel answered honestly. Hey, the teacher seemed to have glanced at Elder Tapros. There was a bit of victory in his eyes. What spell is enhanced this time? Well. What? There is no strengthening spell. Gretel honestly reported his ideas, practices, and results. It seems that the achievements are remarkable so far. The super biological computer built by human beings can directly record CT images, directly output the results, and work backward to construct a three-dimensional map. However, in any case, it cannot be regarded as inscribing a spell. I lost the bet. Elder Tapros laughed happily. He casually grabbed the old vine bird and stuffed it into Greed's hand. This is the stake. It's yours. The Lord of Thunder remained silent. However, the silver-white kitten also jumped on Gretel's shoulders, and then lay down on his head. Cyrilla grabbed him, held him in his arms, and rubbed him hard. Both sides made a bet, but no one won. The banker takes all, and all gambling funds are collected. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Hee, did you expect this result? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 916. Well, this little bird was made when I was young. A little gadget. Elder Tapros spread his palms with a smile. The little bird immediately flew into his palm, chirping, and jumping around with its round body, like a bright black comma. It can travel thousands of miles to deliver messages to you. Ordinary confinement and confusing spells cannot stop it. The elder bent his fingers slightly, and a bright light emitted from his fingertips, forming a curtain of light, covering the little bird. The Lord of Thunder nodded in praise. A very powerful confinement spell. Little Gretel, learn it well. Greed tentatively stretched out his finger and poked it. The light curtain was not penetrated, but instead recessed inward. Cyrilla quickly glanced at their faces and secretly flicked her fingers. With a swish sound, a small air bullet hit the light curtain, causing a ripple, but there was still no sign of being dispersed. The little bird flapped its wings twice, then suddenly bumped into it, broke through the light curtain, and landed on the table. When it passed through the light curtain, it was only the size of a sparrow. When it landed on the table, it had become the size of an owl. The wings flew up and down, covering the 3-story dessert tower on the table below, fluttering and flying, constantly expanding. The size of a golden pheasant, the size of a peacock, the size of a golden eagle. Finally, when its wings were folded, it swooped down like an arrow and turned back into a small bird the size of a sparrow. The table was empty, not to mention the snack tower, coffee cup, coffee spoon, and even half of the snack dregs were gone. "That's my favorite set of tableware," the Lord of Thunder complained softly. Elder Tapros turned a deaf ear and smiled broadly. "Well, it can get bigger and carry items. You can explore the specific number yourself. It can also carry people, protect a few people in its belly, travel long distances, or break out of the siege of chaos. It's still possible. Made it happen. If it can load a few people, 10 cubic meters and several tons of stuff should be able to load it, right?" Greet speculated silently. The elder stood up with a smile and patted him on the shoulder. "It contains some of my notes and manuscripts that you can read slowly. In addition, it can also enhance your connection with nature, assist you in casting spells, or bring you some useful food and herbs. Any questions? You can also use it to communicate with me." After saying that, he turned around, walked a few steps, jumped out of the cliff. With his arms spread out, his whole body quickly shortened, widened, and grew feathers, turning into a huge goshawk. It flapped its wings a few times and soared into the sky. "Little Greet, remember to feel more nature." Gretel held his head high and sent him flying higher and higher, farther and farther, until he finally turned into a small dot and disappeared. "Do you want to feel more nature? It feels like I have a lot more homework at once. T. The Lord of Thunder watched quietly, and waited until the legendary priest of the natural god church had gone away, then pulled out the flying carpet and stepped on it first. The group of people sat down one by one, and the flying carpet rose, heading north. Then the Lord of Thunder gave instructions. "The direction you chose to strengthen is good. The higher you go, the higher the requirements for a magician's thinking speed and computing power. If you want to expand the world of meditation, interact with the outside world as much as possible and promote its substantive development, computing power is the foundation. In addition, try to expand the world of meditation as much as possible, and pay attention to the difference between the perspective of the mage and the perspective of the natural priest. Of course, in the final analysis, you must also rely on your own cognition. When studying 5-ring spells, generally speaking, mages can no longer learn everything and tend to bite off more than they can chew. However, when choosing a major spell, it is still necessary to take into account other spells related to it. You performed well in this battle. If you gain some combat experience, you won't be in too much danger when you go out for a walk. The battle is over and you are now a level 9 mage. It's time to walk around and see." "Is the battle over?" Gretel suddenly interrupted. "Teacher, are you saying that the battle in the Netherlands is over? How is the situation now?" The battle, or rather the war, in the Netherlands was indeed over. Ever since the big explosion occurred in Calais City, the Solace Cathedral was completely destroyed, and the team sent by the Glory Holy City suffered heavy casualties. The Kingdom of Brolin has undergone unexpected changes. In the middle of the Kingdom of Brolin, a group of great nobles led by the Duke of Ardennes stood out for their independence, established the Kingdom of Capet, and proclaimed the Duke of Ardennes as its first king. "What? This is okay?" Gretel's eyes almost bulged out. "Does the glorious Holy See not care? They want to take care of it," the Lord of Thunder snorted lightly. Archmage Baebo explained to the teacher. "First of all, the Duke of Ardennes also has a great reputation. He is one of the descendants of the Emperor of the ancient Salic Empire. Oh, it is said that the territory directly under the glorious Holy See was given to them by a certain Emperor of the Salic Empire." Okay. According to the rules of this world, it seems that the Duke of Ardennes can really be a king or something. Gretel turned his curious eyes to his senior brother. What's next? Secondly, you also know that the Brolin royal family suffered a heavy blow, the strength of the army sent to the Netherlands was greatly damaged, and the royal family declared bankruptcy. It seems that it has not recovered yet. If they want to suppress the rebellion, they must have strength. So the Glory Holy See will not fight the rebellion on behalf of the royal family? Gretel asked immediately. Archmage Baebo showed a sarcastic smile. The city of Kalias was bombed, the seven-city divine magic formation was destroyed, and all the magical power stored in the area was exhausted. As for the churches in the Central Territories, guess how many priests and bishops are from the families of local nobles? Gretel could understand this situation very well when he thought about the origins of the priests from the God of War Temple and the Spring Water Temple. He clapped his fingers. So the current situation is that the royal family can't contribute money or effort. The Holy See doesn't want to work for them in vain, and it can't mobilize so much strength. By the way, does the teachings of the glorious God religion say I have to be loyal to you as king or something like that? It seems not. Archmage Baebo searched through his memory with difficulty. There is another sentence, which is probably let the Lord's things belong to the Lord, and let the king's things belong to the king. In short, what the glorious Holy See can do is probably to mediate, and work hard to mediate. Several people laughed together. Gretel scratched back and forth on the blanket, sketching the topography of Brolin's kingdom, and suddenly said, wow. If the Cape Tien kingdom becomes independent, the army that goes to fight the Netherlands will be separated from the mainland. Yes, so they are in big trouble. I guess King Brolin is having a headache now, how to bring this team back, whether it is letting the Cape Kingdom let them go, teetering to the Rhine Kingdom, or taking the sea route. No matter which way you go, it will be a huge problem. Gretel clicked his tongue. And if they can't reach an agreement, if they want to get the Cape Kingdom to provide them with supplies, it will be an even bigger trouble. Just thinking about it, Greed felt that King Brolin's head must be so painful that it was about to burst. Well, maybe it could be cluster headache, migraine, tension headache, maybe trigeminal neuralgia or something, all at the same time? In short, the Cape Kingdom has declared its founding. After taking this step, it will not easily retreat. Archmage Baebo looked at his junior brother with soft eyes. With it in the way, the Netherlands should be able to take advantage of the situation and establish a nation. Next, the mainland will be in chaos for a while, including how to distribute the fleet to the New World and how to divide the 4 major governorships. It will take several years. In a short period of time, the glorious Holy See will not have time to trouble us. Whether it is the Kingdom of Kent or the New World. He cast his gaze far away in the direction of the sunset. Gretel followed him and looked to the west, muttering silently. Yes, New World, how is Brother Lin En? No news for a long time. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. I am also surprised that there is no such thing as loyalty to the king in Catholic doctrine, but considering that the Holy See can canonize kings, it doesn't seem to be surprising. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 917. Little Greed. I have arrived safely in the New World. The nearly 2-month voyage was not difficult, especially for a magician. However, the conditions of the poor in the bottom cabin are very poor, and many people have the smell of disease and death. The first place we arrived was a small town called Waltham. To my surprise, this town is quite prosperous, no worse than some small towns in the interior. Almost all the wooden boards in the port are brand new, and the streets are full of 2- and 3-story brick houses. The people were cleanly dressed, with rosy faces, and smiles on their faces. What particularly surprised me was the indigenous people. They were tall and strong, not like savages, but as muscular as human beings. I even saw 3 mage towers. I plan to visit the presiding mages one by one to get some information from them. In another half to a month, after adapting to the local climate and environment, I may go inland to explore briefly. This was the first letter Gretel received. It has been 2 years since Lin An set out for the New World, and within these 2 years, less than 10 letters have been sent one after another. One letter when I first arrived in the New World, then one letter every 2 months for most of the year, and then one letter every 3 or 4 months. In the letter, Lin told him about the customs of the inland indigenous people, describing how they farmed, hunted, fought, and worshipped. Filled with curiosity, the necromancer observed the villages, forts, dikes, and fish pens built by the natives of the New World. With gloomy compassion, he described to Gretel they fell in famine, and large areas, the fields were uncultivated, and new graves were added to the grave areas outside the villages, and some villages were even unable to bury their dead. The most recent one was already half a year ago. As for the time when the letter was completed and sent to the coast of the New World, it was even earlier. I saw the mighty water, the water that the local indigenous people call the Great River, and it lives up to its name. During the rainy season, the water upstream is crystal clear on one side and full of sediment on the other. I have flown along the river bank for nearly 100 miles and can still distinguish between them. Further downstream is the brown torrent, which roars, boils, and rushes downward with overwhelming power. You have to look far away to see the other side of the river bank. Compared with it, all the rivers in the Kingdom of Kent are worthless. Just a mention. I want to walk along this river, all the way to the mouth of the sea, to see what it looks like. I advanced to level 8 magician 3 months ago, and I have a hunch that when I reach the mouth of the sea, when you set foot on the beach, it is the opportunity for the next advancement. Greet closed his eyes and mobilized the memory fragments stored in the core of meditation. Guangren quickly gave him feedback. In the northern part of the New World, the largest river meanders from north to south. It is so majestic that it collects nearly half of the water in the northern continent, carries abundant sediment into the bay, and rushes towards the storm islands between the northern and southern continents. So, if Lin An walked all the way to the mouth of the sea, would he end up on the territory of the glorious Holy See? I promised to come back in 2 years. Gretel muttered quietly. But everyone has his own path. If he feels there is an opportunity to advance, the best choice is of course to pursue it. As for the itinerary mentioned before, alas, a magician's schedule always changes. There was nothing Gretel could do. Although Elder Tapros gave him the ancient vine bird, which can send messages over long distances, so far, the maximum distance that Gretel can use to send messages is less than 200 miles. You also have to record a fixed address in advance, or enter the aura of the person you want to send the message to. It's a pity that Greet doesn't know Lin's address, and there are various things left in the Mage Tower, so he can't lock him from a distance. And Gretel himself couldn't leave. He has just advanced to level 9, and there are a lot of 5-ring spells waiting for him to learn. God knows, 5th level spells are much more difficult than 4th level spells, and there are so many useful spells waiting for him to explore. Teleportation. The previous arbitrary gates could only teleport randomly within a few hundred meters, but the 5th level teleportation technique could theoretically span thousands of miles in an instant. Even if I can't travel such a long distance, from now on commuting from the Mage Tower to the hospital, I no longer have to hang on to various defensive spells in the wind and rain, and 3 people are squeezed into Appa. Stone wall. With the combination of fossils to mud and mud to stone, you can build a house however you want. If I want to expand the hospital and add 2 buildings, I no longer have to think of ways to raise money or go to the Magic Council to blackmail people. Uncanny workmanship. Quickly manufacture products of the same material from materials, such as injection syringes and pipes for hanging saline water, and you will no longer have to worry about things not being available for a while. Of course, the most important thing is magic permanence. This magic can make certain spells permanent on oneself, others, or an item. When a magician goes out for a walk, whether it is to provide convenience for himself or to protect himself, it is very necessary to maintain some spells. Of course, the premise of everything is that he must study the spell thoroughly. The Lord of Thunder has ordered him to think carefully about which spells he should imbue himself with. Which ones you solve yourself, which ones you ask for help from, which ones you pay yourself to hire, and which ones you use the teacher's connections. Please report it to the next regular meeting. Should I keep language proficiency constant or detect magic? Blark Words is actually very good. It allows me to automatically speak the other party's language and communicate with each other without any hindrance, but my level is not yet come. You can't cast spells on yourself. I have to pay a lot of money again. A mage who can cast magic constancy starts at level 9, and there is no cap. Gretel is optimistic about several particularly useful spells, such as Blark Words, see-through invisibility, such as Phase Gate, Teleportation Circle and Force Wall. The release level fluctuates at level 10 to level 17. When a magician goes out, he always has several trigger-type magic items with him that can be hit or run away. In case of being attacked, most mages will immediately pop up their shield, and then the teleportation spell will automatically trigger and run away. As for counterattack, come back later. He could barely afford to hire a level 10 mage once, but at level 17. Gretel touched his pocket and then his mage badge. He felt that even if he squeezed himself dry, he might not be able to hire him even once. Of course, if the mage tower is sold, it will definitely be affordable. The problem is, neither his main mage tower nor the hospital mage tower can be sold under any circumstances. Greet, what are you thinking about? Senior brother Baebo raised his voice. Follow me. The celebration party is about to begin. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 918. Greet and the others followed Archmage Baebo off the small train, and when they stepped into the mysterious lock at the top of Igor Peak, they saw only colorful light balls floating everywhere. From time to time, a ball of light explodes and turns into a rain of light, which falls under the hood. Wow! Cyrilla's eyes were filled with stars. Miss Silverdragon turned her head to the left, and cheerful music suddenly approached and sounded around her. She turned her head to the right, and the demon dolls danced cheerfully and hugged the skeletons. There was steaming heat and joy. The mages who were walking back and forth, whether they knew each other or not, all said hello to Greet and his party. Coming. Here we go. Let's celebrate. We won. Come drink. Come dance. Dance with the beautiful lady. Gretel nodded to them one by one, and a relaxed smile appeared on his face unconsciously. It wasn't until he stepped into the Tower of Babel and the crowd around him was slightly sparse that he took the time to ask his senior brother. Did it spread so quickly? Of course. You don't even think about it, how many people here can be related to the legend? 1/10 of the magicians who can work at the peak are the disciples and disciples of the legendary mage, or their subordinates and servers. In short, they are people with whom they can have connections. Apart from these people, the rest, as long as they don't close their ears and listen too much, all know that the parliament has made big moves in the near future. After the war ended, the legends returned one after another, and most of the originally confidential matters began to be declassified. Soon, everything that happened in Hall Strait, together with the cause and effect, was presented to the magicians at the peak. The war is over. Win. The magical chain in the Hall Strait has been torn down, the Cape Tien Kingdom is independent, and the independence of the Netherlands is a foregone conclusion. The glorious Holy See has 2 more henchmen. It will not have the energy to trouble us for at least 10 years. The most important thing is that all the legendary mages returned safely, no one died, no one was even injured. Greet, who was watching the whole scene from across the strait, could sympathize with this kind of worry just by thinking about it for a moment. He sighed and a smile appeared on his face. It's good that the secrets weren't leaked. We won the battle, so we should be happy. Then hurry up and follow, Senior Brother Baebo called to him without looking back. Don't wait too long, your stage today is not at the gate. Huh, I still want to go on stage. Do you want to perform? Senior Brother, don't lie to me. If I had agreed to perform in advance, I wouldn't have come. Archmage Baebo turned around and gave him a sharp look. Gretel shrank his neck and followed him honestly. The elevator went up, and doors kept opening on the way, and people kept joining in. Finally, it stopped with a ding, and a starlight fell from the top. Star Dome. Sarala yelled out softly, and wanted to jump out, but then shrank back. The Dome of Stars. She worked long hours here and earned a large sum of gold coins to make her bed. After Shenmian advanced, when people from the prophecy department came to look for her, she was too lazy to go. Will she be caught by them if she goes in now? Let's go, Gretel smiled and turned back to hold her hand. Today is a celebration. No one will look for you to do work. Everyone must be happy. They followed Archmage Baebo and walked inside together. The Star Dome was deliberately decorated today, and stars were constantly shining down from the black velvet-like sky. When it falls on a person, the whole person is covered with a layer of gauze-like starlight, constantly flowing and changing. Sarala laughed in surprise and raised her hand to grab it. Gretel also raised his head and smiled subconsciously. Starlight penetrates the body, and it feels like drinking a cup of mint tea, and the whole person's thoughts become refreshed. What kind of spell is this? So comfortable. The rotunda was bustling with people, with at least 100 magicians gathered here, holding various wines, juices, and drinks, chatting and laughing softly. At a glance, the mage badges on their chests shimmered with golden light, indicating that they were archmages starting at level 11. There are also lower level ones, all of them good-looking young men and women, pushing dining carts or directing floating saucers to move around. Obviously, it was a low-level mage from the mage tower who was temporarily drawn to serve as a waiter. Gretel subconsciously touched the badge on his chest. Well, fortunately, it is already level 9, a level 9 mage, a level 6 arcanist. Yes, the research level has been refreshed again. At this level, there is no problem compared with the 12th level archmage, it's true. He followed his senior brother and walked in with his head held high to join a group of fellow disciples. Not long after, the dome suddenly glowed with light, and a beam of light pulled an archmage in purple robes down slowly. Everyone, we are gathered here to celebrate the current hard-won victory. More than 2 years ago, Eye of the Stars Lady Ender made a prophecy, revealing to us the coming of the Great Famine. After that, the Parliament made arduous efforts to guide the situation step by step, and finally won today's victory. We inserted a nail on the mainland and split the Brolin Kingdom. In the short term, the glorious Holy See will be able to regain its independence. They can't attack us either. Well done. It's really not easy this time. The archmages below were holding drinks and whispering to each other. The purple-robed mage raised a smile. Everyone here today is a person who has contributed in various ways in this war. According to the consistent rules of the Parliament, whoever makes a contribution will definitely be rewarded. Now, please come forward and receive your reward. There was some excited whispering. The purple-robed mage raised his voice. Courtney Goldberg, a 15th level magician in the conjuration system. Risking her life, she placed magic circles and alien space products outside Ostend to induce a divine spell from the opponent. Please enter the secret library, pick 2 level 15 magic items. The light door opened silently. A short-haired female magician walked out of the crowd, her face full of joy, and she walked inside. The purple-robed mage continued. Armitage Cruz, a level 15 magician of the Change Department. He personally led the team and fought on the front lines for 3 months, killing a level 16 Archbishop, a level 17 Heavenly Knight, and 2 level 15 Heavenly Knights. Please enter the secret vault. Oriana Philby, a level 17 magician of the Evocation Department. In the aftermath of the legendary battle, she single-handedly stopped the incoming enemies, killing a level 15 Archbishop, a level 15 Sky Knight, and opponents below level 14 all at once. Many. Asa Baebo, a level 18 magician of the Evocation system. Assists the Lord of Thunder to activate Scorching Flame Waterfall. Ah, so today's meeting is a banquet or an awards show. Gretel was holding a small cup of vanilla nut ice cream, scooping it with a spoon, wandering around. I don't know if it's my fault, I guess not. My results are very small. I only have one level 9 and one level 12. Senior brother should just take me here to have a look. Gret Nordmark, a level 9 magician in the Plasticity Department. Confirmed the arrival of the Great Famine from another angle, proved that nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium are the elements required for plant growth, and proposed the idea of artificially synthesizing nitrogen. Does this have anything to do with me? Greet looked up blankly with a small silver spoon in his mouth. The purple-robed mage read it in one breath. Developed spinal correction treatment methods and made outstanding contributions to successfully instigating the rebellion against the Count of Ostend. Various technical ideas proposed were used in siege warfare. After the war, a level 9 bishop was killed, and a level 12 greatsword was killed. A scholar, please enter the secret vault. So is it really my fault? Can you really let me pick the prize? What should I choose, and which spell combinations should I choose? Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Ah, I finally got my hair cut today. I have been saving my hair for almost half a year. Fortunately, before the Chinese New Year, I found an incredible barber shop and gave me a very short haircut. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to survive until June. The 2 months of lockdown would have been so long. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 919. Gretel dragged his heels towards the light door, taking each step slower. Around him, the great mages looked at him in surprise. Why are you procrastinating? Why are you indecisive? Oh, he's still a little worried. What's wrong? If it were another young mage, he might have to hand over the things he got to his mentor. Doesn't the Lord of Thunder have this problem? They didn't know Gretel's mood at the moment. At this moment, Greet seemed to hear that the final paper had become a final exam, and it was advanced to now, so he would take the exam immediately. Stop it! I'm only halfway through my review. When choosing magic items, the more expensive the better, or the more powerful the better. Its purpose is to increase its strengths, or more importantly, make up for its weaknesses. And this requires a comprehensive understanding and summary of the power you have. On this basis, understand what is most important to you, what can help you, and what spells can maximize your survival rate in times of crisis. But I've only done half of the review work, Greet wailed from the bottom of his heart. The regular meeting is next Monday. There are still 5 days until today. 5 days. But no one had mercy on him. Now, here, he had to make a decision. No guidance, no sideline assistance, no reference books. Gretel walked forward slowly, trying to buy himself more time to think. At this moment, he heard the purple-robed mage above him speak again, with a loud voice. Miss Cyrilla Moonlight Flacegrid rushed into the magic storm during the final battle and single-handedly brought a dozen magicians to safety. Cyrilla jumped up before he could finish speaking. Hold Gretel's arm, happily stride forward. Let's go. Let's pick together. Okay, anything that falls into the hands of Miss Silverdragon will always become particularly straightforward. Gretel just hopes that she won't be unable to walk in the treasure house. I can't hold her back. Gretel thought dully. But no matter what, the legendary mages who let a dragon into the treasure house should have already made a plan. They stepped through the light door. The new world immediately opened its arms to them. It was a dark, deep, and boundless world. In the pure blackness of the universe, there are dots of light of various colors, extending to infinity. Some are big and some are small, some are round, some are square, some are 5-star and 7-pointed, some are solid colors, some are variegated, some are colorful, some are quiet and motionless, some are flashing. So this is the secret vault. How do I get there and how do I choose? Just walk there? There are no roads here. In fact, I am standing here in a void, with no solid ground under my feet, or do I need to fly? Gretel turned his head subconsciously. Cyrilla is already eager to try and prepare to promote the flying technique. Ah, Mage Nordmark, and Miss Fleshgret. A soft voice suddenly floated down. Gretel quickly turned around and saw a ball of light drifting towards them, and sounds kept coming from inside. I am the guide of Secret Vault number 1. Mage Nordmark, in view of your contribution, you can choose 1 8-ring item, or 2 7-ring items. The ball of light lit up and spun around in a circle, scattering a stream of light tails like ribbons. It went directly to Sarira. Beautiful lady, depending on your contribution, you can choose 1 7-ring item or 2 6-ring items. Sarira was stunned. What? How little can I take? Less than half as much as Gretel? Why? I saved so many people. She looked at Gretel, then at the ball of light in front of her. Before Miss Silverdragon could protest, the ball of light quickly made a sound. In addition, the several great mages who were brought out of the magic storm by you will express their gratitude to you separately. Does that mean there will be additional rewards? Cloudy to sunny in Cyrilla. Gretel coughed at the right time. So, how to choose? 2 light spots, 1 red and 1 blue, flew out of the light ball, swaying, and stopped in front of them. The 2 light spots each contracted, expanded into a button shape, with a line of text appearing on each. Table mode. Real scene mode. 2 fingers poked at it at the same time. Gretel pressed the red button of form mode, and when he turned around, Cyrira's slender fingers poked the reality mode, exploding the sapphire blue button. In an instant, the distant, brilliant starlight quickly zoomed in and turned into large and small light groups. The size of pigeon eggs, the size of oranges, the size of basketballs, slowly rotated around them, and in each light group, there was a treasure sleeping. With just a casual glance, Gretel saw a silver ring sleeping in a fist-sized round light group. The gems on the ring dyed the light group into an icy blue. A scroll was sealed in a light ball the size of a cantaloupe, tied with colorful silk ropes. Inside the silk rope, something surged left and right, constantly expanding. An oval-shaped, forearm-long light group shrouded a set of specific and subtle armor. The armor was inlaid with countless fine gems, and the brilliance was bright. Cyrilla let out a soft cry of surprise, picked at each one, and poked them one by one. Obviously, for a dragon, this way of visually displaying treasures just hits her dream. Greet even suspected that if no one stopped her, she could immerse herself in this treasure house for a year or 2, poking at each one. By the way, speaking of time, how long can they pick and choose? The guide of the secret library said at the right time. Click on the table, or click on a certain light group, to see a more detailed introduction, level, characteristics, and attached magic. Mage Nordmark, Miss Fleischgreet, I wish you a happy selection. It made a crisp explosion, exploded into fireflies all over the sky, and left quietly. Greet looked at Cyrilla, who was busy pulling her hair away. She shouted twice but didn't hear a response, so she had to grab her arm. Cyrilla, stop playing. We only have 2 hours. Hey, let me watch it for an hour first. Cyrilla held it in her hands, her eyes glued to more light groups without looking back. Gretel had no choice but to poke open the light curtain of table mode and search for them one by one. Arms. Armor. Golems and other puppets. Instrument. Tools. Real. Potion. Material. Wonderful object. A classification form spread out in front of you. Gretel casually poked armor and immediately expanded a subcategory: armor, robes, hats, cloaks, gloves, shoes. Poke further in, and you will find equipment of various levels and styles. Greet continued to look at each item one by one. After a short while, he remembered a shout not far away. Gretel! Gretel! What's up? Greet, come and wear this. Miss Silver Dragon held up a thin, soft, colorful fabric and ran towards him quickly. Try it? Gretel was stunned. These gorgeous colors, this wide, fluttering hem. Cyrilla, do you want me to dress up as a woman? Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks at Mobi for the 100 rating points. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 920. Greet tried to struggle, to resist, to escape. But Sarah had already rushed over with the piece of fabric, swaying left and right, changing direction several times in succession, and blocking Gretel's path. Try it. Try it. This is very useful. Greet carefully threw over a identification technique. The results came immediately. It was obvious that this was a magic item manufactured by the Parliament and circulated internally. It was almost always waiting for an identification spell to stick the instructions on the face of the spellcaster. Dragon Soaring Cloak. This cloak has a constant dragon flying technique, once a day, and each time lasts for 1 hour. If activated multiple times, it cannot exceed 3 times a day and the total duration does not exceed 30 minutes. It will spread a pair of dragon wings on your back and carry you straight into the blue clouds, soaring at the speed of a giant dragon. Note, however, that it does not give you the dragon's spellcasting abilities. In addition, you cannot carry more than 1 times your own body weight. Use it sparingly, and always have Featherfall ready. No wonder Cyrilla specifically recommends it. Gretel raised his head, and the silver dragon girl looked at him longingly, holding up the cloak with both hands. No, it's more like a shawl, or a long silk cardigan. There is a front and sleeves, but there are no buttons or zippers or anything to hold them together. The whole dress is a beautiful golden red, like a piece of flowing lava or burning phoenix tail feathers. Maybe that's why, when Greet glanced at it at first glance, he thought it was a piece of women's clothing. Of course, it still looks a bit like it now. Gretel hesitated. Can you not choose it? Cyrilla, there should be something you want more, something more important to you. Wear it, wear it. It's so beautiful, Cyrilla kept urging him. Besides, don't you want to fly with me? Spread a pair of wings like mine. She stretched her hands outwards as much as possible and made a flapping movement. Same speed. Fly together. Gretel's heart skipped a beat shamefully. In such a moment of confusion, Cyrilla quickly shook off the clothes and put a suit on him. Left arm, right arm, pull it up, pull the back collar all the way to the neck. Bang. She slapped Greet hard on her vest. Gretel. Fly. A terrible force rose from his back. Heat surged from his shoulder blades, and Greed found that a pair of dragon wings spread out on his back, a pair of gold and red dragon wings of the same color as the dress. Extremely wide, extremely long, extremely powerful. Strong muscles and bones support the tight skin, and there is even a pair of hooks and claws that shine with cold light. With a slight thought in his mind, the pair of dragon wings flapped, slowly taking Gretel into the sky. Really weird. It's almost like an original part of me. Okay. Just choose this, okay. Cyrilla looked at him eagerly. Greet really couldn't say no, so he could only try to circle around. But this is a 6-ring item, Sarara, according to your authority, you can choose a 7-ring item. Do you want to look for it again? That's it? I'll pick out another one with 6 rings, Cyrilla waved her hand and answered decisively. After saying that, he turned around and dashed out again. From a distance, the clear and bright voice of the girl came. Gretel! Don't take it off. Greet shrugged, hung up the radiant clothes, or cloak, and continued rummaging in front of the light curtain. He carefully sorted out his trump cards and felt that he might need a trigger-type protective item that could automatically pop up the shield. Of course, it must be level 5 or above. Or a teleportation item that allows you to teleport quickly and repeatedly within close range, or teleport quickly over long distances. There is no need for attack items for the time being. The lightning cat given by the teacher is already strong enough. The ancient vine bird given by Elder Tapros is a combination of flying props and storage props. He does not need stronger or larger ones for the time being. Of course, Greed would also welcome a set of automatic alchemy equipment or high-end analytical instruments. With this mood in mind, Gretel started rummaging through the strange objects column. Most accessories, as well as things that are difficult to classify, are packaged in this category. Soon, Gretel saw a lot of strange things. A microscope that has stabilized the identification technique. Gretel, why didn't I think that if I gave the microscope a constant identification technique, I wouldn't have to memorize the bacterial characteristics so hard? It can automatically scan and automatically give the answer. A folded boat, only a foot long and half a foot wide, looks similar to the smooth sailing sculptures used for gift giving. But by giving instructions, it can transform into a small boat over 3 meters long, or a medium-sized ship over 6 meters long. A flying broomstick is exactly the same as the one Gretel saw in the Harry Potter series of movies in his previous life, and its function is indeed to carry people to fly indefinitely. A lyre, played to help build various buildings, provided the correct tune is played. Greed thought sadly, these days, if you are a civil servant or a gray man, do you need to learn additional music? It's getting more and more curly. It looked like there were a lot of interesting things, but unfortunately none of them had anything to do with his needs. Greed looked left and right, and suddenly, his target was fixed on 2 records next to each other. Group Treatment of Serious Injuries Ring. It is triggered every 7 days. Each time it is triggered, it can treat serious injuries of no more than 13 people. Group Healing Fatal Injury Ring. A one-time item that can cure fatal injuries of no more than 15 people. Gretel's heart moved. He has become very proficient in treating serious injuries, and he can basically treat fatal injuries, although the idea of casting spells may be different from others. However, if there was a mass casualty event, for example, the Midsummer Festival stampede when he was still an apprentice, with his casting speed, he might be able to save one person, but everyone else was already dead. He retrieved information from the light curtain, poked open 2 light groups, and looked left and right. The group healing serious injury ring is relatively low level, but it can be used once every 7 days. The group healing fatal wound ring can really make the final decision at a critical moment, but once it is smashed with one hammer, there will be nothing left behind. Which one to choose? He turned to ask Cyrilla, who had already chosen something and came over at some point. Cyrilla didn't even think about it and grabbed it firmly with her palm. Choose the big one. Okay, choose the one with big diamonds instead of the one with smaller diamonds and a ring of diamonds around it. This is really in line with the aesthetic taste of the dragon people. The two of them recruited the manager of the secret treasury, registered the things they selected, and went out together. Not a few days into his quiet research life, when Greet stepped out of the mage tower, a black and white thing suddenly threw itself heavily into his arms. Mr. Trochka, Gretel held the thing in his hands and looked at it for a long time, and was shocked. What's wrong with you? Where is Brother Lin? Mr. Trochka is no longer the majestic Black Panther, or even the black cat with a white scarf and white gloves. He curled up into a ball, like a ball of black and white mist. The whole thing kept expanding and contracting, almost on the edge of collapse. Save Lin, save. Mr. Trochka. Hold on. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Recommend the new book My Father-in-Law is Kangxi by the great historical author Yan Juda. It is rare for a male channel to feature a female protagonist, but she can actually reach Sanjiang based on her strength, and has 2,200 first orders. Should I say that the master is worthy of being a master? It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Jialan 2020. Chapter 921. Greet held the cat and went straight to Archmage Edgar. He remembered that Lin An had mentioned that Mr. Trochka was the cub of some kind of magical beast. Archmage Edgar and his friends specially captured it and gave it to Brother Lin for self-defense. There is a problem now. Maybe Archmage Edgar knows how to save it? Unfortunately, Edgar doesn't know either. The Archmage walked around Mr. Trochka 3 times, furrowing his thick eyebrows and shaking his head. I'm not good at treating monsters either. Something happened to Lin? Did it come back to report? I'll take you to find someone else. Gretel followed him outside. Archmage Edgar led him through the tunnel made of human bones, glass bottles and various internal organs. As he walked, he muttered. Let me think about it. Old Fritz from the Conjuration Department is the best at summoning contracted monsters. Viry from the Transformation Department specializes in human body deformation and is very familiar with all kinds of warcraft. They first went to the Tower of All Laws, where Archmage Fritz said there was nothing they could do. Going to the Department of Change again, Archmage Viry put on a pair of special glasses and put Mr. Trochka into a large magical instrument like a fume hood. The cupboard door closed, and as soon as the colorful magic circle was activated, Gretel's eyes lit up. On the surface of Mr. Trochka's body, the lights that are constantly expanding and contracting are fixed in one place. Archmage Viry rotated the lens a few times, then chanted a spell and made gestures into the fume cupboard. Release a spell, move 2 steps, and adjust the lens, release a spell, move 2 steps, and adjust the magic circle. On his pair of glasses, there are more than 10 lenses inserted layer by layer, each lens has a small handle and engraving for rotation. The colorful light changes, reflecting the Archmage's face in various colors, especially the pair of glasses, which are no different from the compound eyes of a dragonfly. As the Archmage observes and adjusts, the magical light ebbs and flows in the fume cupboard. Finally, all the power was woven into a big net, compressed bit by bit, and penetrated deeply into Mr. Trochka's body. Gradually, a palm-sized black cat cub with a white scarf and white gloves lay dying at the bottom of the fume cupboard. His eyes were closed tightly, he could not move, and even his screams were so weak that they almost disappeared. It's ready. Greet said in surprise. Archmage Viry shook his head. I have only temporarily stabilized its condition. Although this little guy is a monster, it has been affected by some alien forces and is not completely flesh and blood. That's why it can escape, but if you want to cure it, it's best to find a higher level mage to see. Gretel and Archmage Edgar looked at each other and saw embarrassment in each other's eyes. Archmage Viry is already at level 15. Looking for someone with a higher level. Then you have to find a boss who is level 17 or 18 and is already exploring the path of legend, or simply find a legend. You have been so helpful. Thank you so much. Gretel hugged the black cat and bowed deeply. He took off his mage badge and planned to pay, but Archmage Viry smiled and shook his head. No, I didn't do anything. There's no need to pay, just give me a chance for free treatment. That's natural, Greed was overjoyed. He scribbled a note, stamped it with the secret seal, handed it over with one hand, holding the cat in the other, and bowed again. You, or someone in your mage tower, or your friend, if you take this note, it will be free. He bid farewell to Master Viry and went straight to the Tower of Babel. Lucky for him, after only waiting for 3 hours, the Lord of Thunder ended an experiment and called him in. What's up? Teacher, save it. Gretel was wandering around in the reception room. He had been impatient for a long time and left a circular mark on the carpet. After finally waiting for the teacher to summon him, he immediately took out Mr. Trochka and held it high in the palm of his hand. Mr. Trochka is Brother Lin's contracted monster. It came all the way back and said something happened to Brother Lin, and then it died. Lin, oh, you became the magician's guide, the Lord of Thunder recalled it and nodded slightly. He pushed up his monocle and looked over intently. Soon, a wisp of silver-white electric light exploded on the transparent lens. Greet waited breathlessly. The Lord of Thunder watched for a moment, then raised his hand slightly, and Mr. Trochka floated into the air, spinning slowly. Gretel subconsciously threw a detection magic and immediately opened his eyes. Inside the kitten's body, there are countless lines running from the limbs to the center. Each slightly larger light spot is like a string of beads, connected by lines. And all the lines finally converge on the brightest light group in the deepest part of the body. But now, a large piece of the light group is missing, as if it has been bitten by someone. The hazy mist of light continued to emanate from the gap, overflowing to the outside, and then being enveloped by the bright light threads, and forced back into the body. Did you see clearly? The Lord of Thunder suddenly asked. Gretel nodded quickly. The Lord of Thunder looked at him with satisfaction and pointed at the black cat. A piece of its existence has been torn off. Not to mention that no one can handle it. Even I can only temporarily stabilize its state and cannot make up for it out of thin air. Of course, as long as it is found back, it can still be restored, so you want to save people. That's for sure. It was Brother Lin N who was in trouble. Gretel answered without thinking. The Lord of Thunder pondered for a moment. You are level 9. In a place like the New World, as long as you are smart, there will be no problem. However, anything that can tear off this existence must either be level 15 or above, or the method is very weird. Do your best. Get ready. I'll be ready. Then go ahead. The Lord of Thunder waved his hand casually. Greet bowed, hugged the black cat back, turned and left. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly turned back. Teacher. Teacher, my hospital, I have to ask the teacher to take care of me while I'm going to the New World. Roll roll roll. Greet hugged the black cat and rolled out of the office at the speed of light. After thinking about it, he went downstairs and knocked on the door of 2 senior brothers and sisters. I'm going to have an adventure in the New World, senior brother and sister, can you help me? What do you want? Archmage Baebo has already placed one hand on the space bag. Senior sister Philby pressed his arm and asked Greet seriously. Equipment? Potion? Assistant? Spell book? When are you leaving? Make an order and come here, we will try our best to help you get together what we can. She said a word and Gretel shook his head. After saying that, Greet put the black cat on the ground and stretched out his hands. Everything else is complete. It's just the constant spell. I don't have time to study it myself. Senior brother and sister, can you help me put together a set? Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 922. So that Lin An's teacher doesn't plan to save people. Archmage Baebo asked casually while flipping through relevant spell materials in the space equipment. Greet shook his head slightly. I didn't ask. If he plans to rescue people, he will come to me to discuss what we need to bring with us. If he doesn't go, why should I make things difficult for him? In this world, no one has any obligations to anyone. Gretel wanted to save people, it was his own business, but he couldn't ask others to do so. Besides, according to the rules of the Magic Council, it is enough for a teacher to teach his students until they are masters. Unless you are a disciple who inherits the mantle, if you want to ask for advice after becoming a teacher, you will have to pay an extra price. Of course, great masters like senior brothers and sisters who have always been with the teacher are equivalent to the Yangtze River scholars and outstanding young people who have always worked with academicians in their previous lives. I led the team independently under the big boss, and was independently responsible for relatively large sub-projects under the big boss's assignment. I have always maintained close contact with the teachers. In this case, it is normal for the teacher to give lots of guidance and lend a helping hand when in danger. As for Brother Lin En, he has left his master's sect and traveled for many years, and claimed to be his follower, living in his mage tower all year round. According to the rules of the mages, compared to Archmage Edgar, he is Lin's boss and the one who needs to be responsible for him. If you want to save someone, you should be the first one to step in. If you don't have enough strength, you can call someone else later. Archmage Baebo nodded slightly and said nothing. Beside, the senior sister smiled and said, if he wants to go, let him go. He's already at level 9, and it's time to go out and have some adventures. How about it, little Gretel, have you thought of a spell to stabilize it? Gretel took a deep breath and subconsciously straightened his back. At this moment, he can only thank himself for studying hard these days. There is no exam tomorrow and he will stay up all night to review tonight. Although it is the senior sister who is asking, the teacher may not be listening. The feather falling technique must be constant. It is the most important technique for self-defense and life-saving. Gretel answered very smoothly. Language and tongues. These two spells are one for listening and one for speaking. They are very important combinations when traveling in unfamiliar areas. Detect magic, dark vision and see-through invisibility are also very useful. If possible, can you add another one to increase resistance? The two archmages looked at each other and nodded slightly. Archmage Baebo smiled and said, the combination is good, but it's better to add a spiritual connection. Your combat intuition and vigilance for outdoor adventures are not good. In Gretel's sad eyes, he continued to speak without mercy. There is a spiritual connection, and an experienced and vigilant warrior will buy you time to react. Okay, I know I'm a rookie, so that's okay, Gretel nodded depressedly. Senior brother Baebo has stood up. Let's go, let's find a place to cast the magic constant spell on you. Applying several spells at a time will be a huge burden on your body and mind. It's best to only keep one spell a day. So it takes 7, no, 8 days. Set out to rescue people as soon as possible. Can it be 3 per day? At least 2. Senior brother frowned slightly. Seeing Greet's helpless look, he sighed and nodded reluctantly. You can give it a try. But if you feel you can't bear it, stop immediately. Greet nodded honestly, got up, and followed his senior brother into the innermost and strongest room of the laboratory. As soon as the door was closed, there was no sound at all from outside, not even the magic waves could be transmitted in. Archmage Baebo directed Gretel to take off his shirt and trousers, leaving only his underwear. The earliest way to use magic constancy was to directly tattoo people's bodies. It has been improved now, but if you want to stabilize a few a day, it would be better to outline the magic circle. He hooked his hand, and a jar of magic paint appeared out of thin air and began to smear on Gretel's body. The calves, thighs, and chest are all soft and curly, with lines like clouds and feathers appearing all over Gretel's body. The power of the feather falling technique mainly acts on the body. To be precise, just add the legs and torso. The head and hands can be left alone, leaving space for other spells. Gretel nodded obediently. Archmage Baebo circled around him to make sure that the magic pattern was drawn correctly, and made a few gestures casually. Powerful fluctuations were coming. Greet suddenly shuddered. The wind, the strong wind that made his hair stand on end, came from all directions and poured into every pore of his body. Just standing there, he felt like the buoyancy of the air was greatly increased, lifting him up. How about it? Archmage Baebo watched his situation closely. It wasn't until the elemental fluctuations disappeared and there were only some residues of the magic symbols on Greet's body that he asked. How do you feel? Do you feel tired physically and mentally? Can you withstand another constant spell? Gretel flexed his arms and jumped twice on the spot. Then, he raised a smile and said decisively. Not tired at all. Come on. Archmage Baebo looked at him suspiciously and cast a few more detection spells. He stared at the result of the spell feedback, looked at it repeatedly for a long time, and whispered. Night. Greet decided to pretend not to hear. As for what old Morgan said, his physical fitness, such as strength and bone strength, has long exceeded the standards of a knight, but his fighting will is not condensed enough, and he has been unable to enter the knight stage. Hey, you must not let your senior brother know about this kind of thing. Archmage Baebo muttered for a while, then used the cleaning technique to wipe off the magic paint residue on Greet's body, and began to draw a new magic circle. While drawing, I thought. Unlike the featherfall technique, the stability of language proficiency mainly affects your spirit. We changed the direction so as not to increase the burden on you. How are you now? When activated, there is a slight tightness in the temples, like a tightened cotton thread, much lighter than the feeling of a tightening curse. Gretel shook his head to get rid of the discomfort. Another one. Another one. After the fourth spell was stabilized, Archmage Baebo was completely shocked. He looked at Gretel, who was in high spirits and showed no signs of fatigue either mentally or physically. He frowned and cast detection spells one by one. This is not magic. Regardless of your physical strength, how solid your mental power is equivalent to a mage. Level 10? It can't be level 11, right? Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 923. On this day, Greet endured 6 spells of constant magic: Featherfall, Understanding Language, Detecting Magic, Increasing Resistance, Dark Vision, and Seeing Through Invisibility. He also wanted to finish the remaining 2 in one go, but Archmage Baebo rushed back unceremoniously. Come on. Come back tomorrow. The last 2 are the 3rd level of Blarney and the 5th level of Mind Connection. You go back today, have a good rest and meditate. Completely relax your body and mind. I notice that you are in a little bit of a state. If it's not good, just find someone to stabilize the magic yourself. Yes, you must listen to senior brother. Gretel smiled and ran out. Well, it's great to have senior brothers and sisters, and it's great to have a strong section, otherwise, he doesn't know how much money it would cost and how much time he would waste if he wanted to stabilize so many spells at one go. The two archmages watched side by side as Gretel picked up the kitten and left quickly. Archmage Philby frowned slightly. Are we just going to let him go to the new world? Little Gretel is only level 9. If he goes deep into the interior, he may be in danger. He is a healer. And, have you forgotten, the teacher mentioned once that he is blessed by the will of the world. Senior brother Baebo's brows were also gloomy, but his cheeks stretched into stern lines. Besides, our department can't stop fighting all the time. You, me, Carlyle, and Koi, Luna and the others who are now going to fight in other dimensions, who haven't come across the battlefield through wind and rain. I'll prepare some equipment for him. Archmage Philby stood up and left. You go talk to those great mages that Cyrilo memorized. Spread the news. They should know to send the thank you gifts as soon as possible, and they should also know the best thank you gifts. Gretel didn't know that his senior brothers and sisters were worrying about him. He carried Mr. Troca back to the Mage Tower, and immediately asked Moss to send a signal, summoning all the members in the Mage Tower. Master Lin En is in danger in the new world. The mages and apprentices lined up in 2 lines, from the steps at the entrance of the Wizard Tower to the carriageway outside the tower. Greet stood on the top step, facing the crowd, lowered his head and smoothed the cat's fur. Mr. Trochka ran back desperately for help. After the teacher checked, he had injured the source. The enemy was obviously a strong man. I decided to set out as soon as possible to rescue Master Lin En. I'll go with you. Sirara shouted without thinking. Bernard remained silent, took 2 steps, and turned behind Gretel. That meaning is very clear. Boss, wherever you go, I will go too. In the space vacated by Bernard, the silver moon deer's big head shook, its antlers shining with silver. Gretel nodded to them in turn and smiled. Aurora and Master Norwood looked at each other and took a step forward. Gretel shook his head and raised his palms to them. Oro, don't go. Mr. Trochka hasn't woken up yet. We are likely to enter the depths of the new world. The enemy is very strong. If there is danger, I cannot protect you. I'm not afraid, cried Aurora. Gretel's face darkened, and he added a rare stern tone. This is an order. Oro, you stay in Nevis and preside over my mage tower. Mr. Norwood will assist you. If you are in trouble, ask the teacher for help. Only you in the entire mage tower can easily contact you. Aurora nodded heavily, her expression unwilling. Gretel nodded to Master Norwood again. Please, Oro is inexperienced. There are some things that I need to remind you of. Okay. Master Norwood took a step forward and nodded solemnly. He is very self-aware of his age, qualifications, and status, and does not feel any grievance in assisting Aurora. Boss, I have compiled a list of the supplies you need to bring with you to the new world. The Mage Tower is being urgently produced and purchased, and the first batch is expected to be completed tomorrow. Gretel gave him a forced smile. Then, he turned to Carlos and Anavia, and rarely straightened his expression. Carlos, Anavia. There is one thing I have never asked you before. Are you willing to become my disciples, learn my knowledge, and practice my path? A necromancer and a nature priest looked at each other. 5 long years have been enough for them to go from hating each other due to their careers to becoming fellow travelers fighting side by side. After all, if everyone wears lab coats, works hard in the same laboratory, and strictly abides by the same operating procedures, over time, it will be difficult not to identify with each other. In the order in which they were asked, Carlos stepped forward first. This former mage apprentice had worked in Gretel's Mage Tower and Hospital for 5 years, and had advanced to a 4th level mage. Not too fast. but Greet must admit that as the de facto executive director of the hospital and the director of the institute, Carlos is really useful. Now, the executive dean put his right hand on his chest and bent deeply towards Gretel. I do, teacher. I am willing to, teacher. Anavia followed and bowed. She is already at level 5, moreover, she is better than myself in terms of nature affinity, communication with plants, communication with animals, and other traditional areas of strength of nature priests. Greet thought with a bit of sourness. He faced the two disciples and nodded solemnly. Okay. From today on, Leon Carlos, you will be my first disciple in the mage field. You will be in charge of Oak Grove Hospital and the Hospital Mage Tower. I will add you as the second controller. Anavi, you are my first disciple in the field of natural priests. You serve as the deputy director of Oak Forest Hospital. You will continue to preside over the research on penicillin, streptomycin and similar series. I will keep you. Share of resources. He glanced at the rest of the crowd. Among them were Master Lin En's apprentices, Master Norwood's apprentices, and some who were favored to be apprentices in his master tower, but were not worthy of being accepted as disciples by him. If these people fail to achieve sufficient results, some will be attached to the official mage, some will be dismissed in a few years, and some will resign on their own initiative. In short, everyone has his or her own path. Gretel decided not to think about them anymore. He motioned to his two disciples to stand behind him and cleared his throat. Then that's it for today. Thank you for your hard work, work hard and organize all the supplies I want to take away. In addition, Master Norwood, please find me a fast ship to the New World, and find an experienced guide. He suddenly stopped. In the distance, a skeleton carriage sped by and stopped at the entrance of the Mage Tower. Archmage Edgar carried his black robe and hurriedly got out of the carriage. Mage Nordmark, I have found a guide for you. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of